Hey everyone, Road to Grandma's Marathon Day 6 is here. I'm Coach Kyle of Freedom Running Club, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about how I was able to PR both times I ran at Grandma's Marathon, the fastest time being the shirt that I'm wearing here, which was in 2025, and how I was able to Boston qualify in both of those races as well. So I really chalk it up to two main things when it comes to this actual course, some things that we've talked about and some things we're going to talk about here in this series. The really big thing, though, that I think I did with my training going into Grandma's Marathon was I really did increase and improve the hill training that I did for myself. Specifically, when I first looked at this course and I heard from everybody that it was a super fast, super, quick course and everything that you hear about Grandma's Marathon, I was like, oh, okay, cool. I can do normal marathon training. I see there's a little bit of rolling hills, but nothing too crazy. And I've already talked a little bit about 4 key types of hills that you can do in terms of preparation for Grandma's Marathon. It was one of the previous videos in the series. I would take a look at that to kind of talk about it. But whatever hill training you have done, start from there and move up into it because you don't want to do too much. Grandma's Marathon here, you're probably getting close to your peak week based on when this is coming out. So you don't want to try to skip a bunch of steps. But whatever you have done now, if you're not doing a decent amount of dedicated hill work, maybe start doing some of that. If you've done some of these beginning steps in terms of hill training, you can start to add some of these other pieces to it. And one of the hill training types that I had never done before was those marathon pace effort on hills, which is one of the last types of hills that I talked about. And I really think that helped me be able to see and feel what the pace is going to feel like on those rolling hills. And as a reminder, this is a net downhill course, but just like Boston, it's going to have more downhills at the beginning and some uphills at the end. Lemon Drop Hill around mile 21, 22 is going to be the hardest of those hills, and you want to be prepared for it. So really kind of lock in on your hill training as you're kind of getting ready for this. And that's something that I really did to help me PR both times and Boston qualify both times on this course. The second thing that I really did was really kind of hone in my fueling, which I haven't talked really in terms of this series yet, but I am going to talk about it here today. And in the next video, we're really going to go deep in terms of this. So what did I do? What does some of the most recent research talk about in terms of fueling, in terms of success on race day? So I very much increased the amount of fuel that I was taking in per hour the second time I ran Grandma's Marathon to run my fastest time at that point and to Boston qualify again. Beforehand, I was kind of in that like 45-ish grams of carbohydrates per hour, like 2 gels. I increased that by a third. So I was closer to that 60 grams of carbohydrates per hour mark, which still could be improved. The most recent race that I did, I upped that even more. That was Chicago Marathon last year, ran another PR, my fastest time ever. So that is something that you can always sort of hone in on. And again, just like the hills, like I was mentioning, don't try to go from, if you're maybe taking 1 gel per hour right now, that's typically like 22 to 25 grams of carbohydrates, depending. It could be more, it could be 50 grams if it's some of those brands, but something like that. Maybe work to kind of add another one of those. And what that could look like is increasing the amount that you're doing in your training, because you do actually have to train your stomach to be able to accept those carbohydrates when you're running. So it's not always just about fueling the run you're doing if you might feel like you don't need it. It's also about training your stomach to be able to do it on race day, and as weird as this sounds, be able to open it and take it when you're doing some of these race pace efforts. So there was a study that came out in 2020, so it's not super recent, but not very old, that first started to look at continuing to push the amount of carbohydrates per hour someone can actually take and it be beneficial. They looked at a group that was doing 60, 90, and 120 grams of carbohydrates, and I've already put it up on the screen, but here's that study again to take a look at. So essentially, when you're looking at it, the old school thinking was you could take 60 grams of carbohydrates per hour. Then we figured out that you could take 90 if you were taking a 2-to-1 glucose to fructose, more glucose than fructose in your actual race. This study looked at 120 grams of carbohydrates per hour, and what they found at that point was that up to 90 grams of carbohydrates per hour was increasing your performance. When you went from 90 to 120 grams, they found that the recovery the next day was better. And the people in this study were they were doing a mountain marathon race, and the next day they did these really crazy fast, like sprint tests, squat tests, things like that. And the people that were in the 120 grams of carbohydrates per hour performed better. So they suspected that this helped with recovery. But I think what we're starting to see, and the most recent world record, where 3 men set the world record or beat the previous world record, in the marathon. 2 of them broke 2 hours. The people that were at the very, very top, and the top athlete, the one that won and has the fastest time now ever, he's a Martin athlete, and they released some of the things that he did that kind of go along with the study, that maybe it's more than just recovery. He's a Martin athlete, so obviously Martin has a vested interest in what they post about what this person does, but what they have released is that he was taking 115 grams of carbohydrates per hour, so very close to that 120 that's in this study. And he's probably doing that for a reason. They said that they were training him for, it was either a month or 2 months, something like that, in the final days leading up to his race, where they were getting his body used to taking in these carbohydrates. So that's something I did to run my fastest time ever in Boston Qualify the second time in this race, and something that you can definitely work on between now and then. The one thing that almost messed me up on the second time, and I've been saying this over and over again, is going out too fast. I definitely went out a bit too hard on that race, and I did pay for it. I did not run a reverse split. It was a bit slower on the second end, so definitely learn from my mistakes also, and take that as a third thing that maybe you can do into this. Do not go out too hard. Make sure you're going out easier. You want to make sure that you bank energy for those hills at the end, so some dedicated hill work. Train your body to be able to take in as many carbohydrates as you really can per hour for you, because again, this number is being pushed the more we're looking into this more. And do not go out too hard. Those are going to be things that are really going to serve you on race day to PR at Grandma's Marathon, and things that 2 of them definitely helped me, and 1 of them could have helped me PR even more if I had listened to my own advice on that. So in the next video, we're going to talk a little bit more about fueling in terms of per hour. We're also going to talk about hydration, sodium levels, things that you can actually take in terms of doing that for you on race day here at Grandma's Marathon.